Behold, the abomination. Who draws like this, though? I mean, seriously, you go on Twitter and you have artists that draw for free, and they are like miles beyond this. Like, this is probably when they were learning to draw. I mean, look at this. First of all, what is with this facial expression? It looks like she's high on crack. It looks like she took cocaine. And then look at the way they draw women. Why does she have like these broad shoulders? Like, holy shit, like if you replace her face with Mr. T and you change the color palette of her body, it looks convincing. Look at it, the arm as well, it's almost like it's a rag that's floating in the wind. Like, is this expressing feminine energy to you? She's supposed to be a superhuman. She's supposed to be peak idealism in every form. The way she looks should inspire awe. And yet this is what one of the most renowned corporations in the world when it comes to comic book is able to deliver. Like, this is the peak, right? Like, there's nothing beyond this. Like, this is where the limit is supposed to be at. And unfortunately, this is what it's in 2025, right? Let's look at what used to be. And the answer is this. Like, this used to be back in the day. How did we regress to this level? Not only is she oozing femininity and confidence, but like, if I compare my wife to the first Power Girl, I get slapped. If I compare her to the second one, she would view it as a compliment. And the question is like, how did we get to this? And the answer is, well, obviously, it's not the same writers, right? It's not the same artists. What person in their right mind would get this guy fired in order to accept this guy? Like what type of self-suiciding business person would say, yeah, I think like this guy just doesn't cut it. And the reason why he doesn't cut it is you go on his Twitter and you realize that he's not of the correct ideology. He doesn't support the Democrats. He's not big on environmentalist issues. But what the fuck does that have to do with comics? The answer is nothing, but they decided that we need to create comic books based around the ideology. Like, everyone needs to be on the same page. And this is how the diversity officers came to be. And when you realize that the main job of diversity officers is to keep diversity officers employed, all of this shit makes sense. Because they don't want to hire talent, right? Like, the people that want diversity officers employed, like, unfortunately, most of them draw like this. And so what they want is people that can be controlled and people that say the socially acceptable things so that they're not a danger to the position of the diversity officer. And they flood the company with talentless people, but unfortunately, what ends up happening is, like, number one, this is an entertainment company. A lot of people have a lot of emotional value invested in these characters. And so you're just planting the seeds of spite. And while they can't get to you directly, they can vote for the person you dislike. And apparently the person you dislike is finally cracking down on all of this diversity initiative bullshit. Now, certain companies like Amazon are taking advantage of this. Because up until now, if you try to fire these people, again, they're like a clique. And they do walkouts and they defend each other because they all think the same. So it was very difficult to get rid of them. But now you are like, well, you know, due to the nature of politics, due to how things are shifting in the US, like, we want to do business with the government. We want government contracts. And it seems that there's a new ideology. There's a new government. And so, like, we got to make these changes, right? You're not afraid that you're going to get political backlash. And now is the time, right? Like, now is the time to clean house, to get rid of all the fat, to get rid of all the people that are not part of actually producing the product, to get rid of all the people that are talentless, and to get rid of all the people that are antagonizing your customers. Unfortunately, Disney is not one of these companies. Like, what Disney is doing is absolutely baffling. So, listen to this. In its recent annual filling with the United States Security and Exchange Commission, the Walt Disney Company showcased unwavering commitment to its controversial diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. I love the fact that finally we're calling the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda controversial. Because it is. Like, outside of the Western world, no one fucking does it. 20 years before, no one fucking did it. Like, they tried it, and it was a colossal failure on every metric. And so finally calling it controversial is a welcoming change, because up until now being against it was controversial. So as you can see, you have companies like Amazon, Walmart, Boeing, and Ford moving away from such initiatives. And I gotta say, like these decisions, they're not like trying to bamboozle the customer. Because like you're not going to lie to the customer, you're just lying to yourself. Like these initiatives are de facto bad for business. And so if you're trying to bamboozle the customer, like hide the DEI in the basement or whatever, it's still affecting your company. They will still hire people with the primary principle of keeping the diversity department self-employed. They don't look after for what's best for your company. The entire ideology is that you don't care about the company's bottom line. Like nowhere within the DEI ideology is like we need to help the company make a profit. That's not even part of it, right? And for the company to make a profit, it means that it sells the product to the market. Like the market is ecstatic about the product, they're buying it in record numbers. That's how you care about the bottom line in a capitalist society. But like DEI ideology in and of itself is against that principle. And so what Disney is doing, right? Listen to this. They're incorporating DEI into its board selection process and executive bonuses. Disney made no public announcement or press release accompanying the filing this year, which is raising eyebrows about whether the company is trying to downplay its ongoing DEI focus in the face of public criticism. But this is the interesting one, right? Like Disney lists diversity as a skill and a valid experience. And to be honest, like, I don't blame them, right? Like if you happen to be born Chinese and you're diverse, you already have a skill in that you're not surrounded with white liberals to mindfuck you and cause you brain retardation, and then you can actually function as a normal human being. So maybe it is, like maybe it is a skill or a valid experience to be born in a diverse place without being surrounded by Democrats. But what I also notice is that they, unironically, like up until now, they genuinely did treat it as a skill and a valid experience. Like in my country, when you have someone in a position of authority talking about something, like let's say you have like two people discussing medical issues, right? And then you have a third person that says something and people like what is this guy saying? And the other guy says like, look, I'm a doctor, right? Like they're basically saying like, I've been studying this for years. I dedicated years of my life in researching this. So what I am saying about this subject comes from a place of deeper learning than someone that just skimmed the file. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the guy is right, but like he's using his medical profession as a way to justify the experience. And like in all walks of life, that's true. It's like someone is talking about physics, another guy is coming. It's like, look, I'm a physician, right? Like I know what I'm talking about because this is what I study. In American discourse, however, how many times have you not seen in a paper like as a black woman, as a Chinese woman, as an Indian woman, right? Like they're using it as it's some sort of PhD, as if it's some sort like this is my profession, right? So like when I talk about these things, I'm more educated than you because this is how human knowledge works. You can only learn things through experiencing them personally. Like you can't just read a book and get knowledge from that. Like you gotta actually experience, right? Like a doctor cannot possibly know that having cancer is bad because he never had it, right? Like, unless you actually experience the disease, how can you empathize with the patient? Like, imagine going to a patient, that just stubbed his toe, and he says that he is in tremendous pain. And you as a doctor, who just visited a couple of other patients, like one of them has pancreatic cancer, another guy had 5 teeth removed because he was in a huge car crash. And you're seeing this guy that stubbed his toe and claims that he is in tremendous pain. And you tell him, no, I mean, I understand you're in pain, but I don't think you're in tremendous. I don't think you need morphine. And he would start bad-mouthing you and say, well, how do you know? Like, you're not the one that got hurt. You don't experience the pain that I'm experiencing, so you can't possibly know. This is like the mental retardation that this ideology was trying to sell, and for some fucking unimaginable reason, people bought into it. And so, yeah, like they unironically do consider diversity as a skill and a valid experience. Disney's SEC filing emphasizes the diversity of its board directors, boasting that 50% of its members are considered diverse, With 40% non-male and 30% non-white, it's clear this feeling that Disney considers anyone who isn't white male to be diverse. It, like, again, Disney is at an all-time low now. When I was born on planet Earth, the dream of every single child in Romania, without exception, there wasn't a single child in Romania that didn't want to travel to Walt Disney. Like, this was considered one of the most mind-blowing experience that you could provide to a kid. Nowadays, I don't think there's a single child that want to visit Walt Disney. Like, most kids want to go to Japan. Some kids want to visit the US. But, like, no one wants to go to Walt Disney. No one even fucking cares. I wouldn't be surprised at the rate things are going that in 5 years no one would even know what Walt Disney is. Oh, it's that company that makes, like, those cringe live animated films, right? I mean, seriously, think about it. Like, Disney used to be renowned for jaw-dropping, well-made animation with stories that would definitely shake you. Like there were a lot of people when I grew up saying that men don't like romance movies. But then when you actually watch some of the Disney classics, like, a lot of men love them, and they're romance movies. Like, what type of man didn't like Mulan? Even The Princess and the Frog is a good show, right? Like even one that aren't as renowned are still, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, renowned throughout the entire world. And that was the magic of Disney. And now they stopped doing that, and instead they keep doing live-action adaptations that are cringe. They're bad, they're subversive. And instead of, like, trying to reflect and saying, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not sustainable. They keep doubling down, and they say shit like, oh, the Disney attraction ride where Snow White is awakened by the kiss of the prince is actually rape culture. Like what type of person thinks like that? What type of imbecile would even look into a story like that? Why are you hyper-analyzing the story in such a manner? It's fiction. Like, you need to be like some person that has brain damage to look into, like, yeah, okay, fine, if you look into it and you apply modern contemporary standards, yeah, okay, you know, the prince kissed a person that was, from all accounts, dead, right? So, like, the prince is a necrophiliac. There you go. If you really want to analyze it from, like, the lens of modern contemporary time, and you actually believe that, right? Like, what would it look like if a dead woman is in the forest surrounded by 7 midgets and a guy just comes in and kisses her? Yeah, he's probably a necrophiliac. He's a pervert, right? But, like, you're supposed to separate the magic of the fairy tale from the realism of the real world. Fuck is wrong with you? What type of imbecile does that? And what type of imbecile goes out in public saying these things? Like, it must be so fucking sad that you cannot differentiate fact from fiction. If you're at that level, where you apply, like, modern thinking to a story, to a fiction. And this is the new Disney, right? And, well, if this is the new Disney, well, enjoy getting broke. It's going to be a long haul because they're a very wealthy company and they get a lot of perks from the American government. But, like, eventually, they are going to be replaced by China. And they are going to be replaced by Japan and South Korea and actual companies that are focused on making entertainment and none of this shit. Like, I don't see China or South Korea talk about these metrics. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.